Wednesday, 21st of April. I did my lower body maintenance yesterday. I've just had a class, the Russian systema, which I go to once or twice a week, and I'm very close to this place. There's a very nice spot here. Basically, there's a lot of open space up here. Can't really see it. Some steps to work with. A very basic fundamental wall with also a drop the other side. This is kind of an angled wall. It's nice for practicing kind of wall running stuff and kicking off. So basically I'm going to work with some light plyometric type thing, just some jumping work, and also we'll do some strength hanging maintenance on the wall. I did my main strength maintenance a couple days ago, but this is something different. This is object interaction, obstacle interaction as well. So it's not a strength session again, it's something kind of like maintenance. I'm still getting myself familiar with these types of obstacles and these types of objects. It's not something I've been practicing for a very long time, maybe only a year or so. And I will also take some time to use, again, this open space you'll see over there, just to practice some basic rhythm timing, coordination and power management work, which basically means kicking a ball with my feet and bouncing a ball with my hands. And I'll just spend about an hour because I have to also give a class later this evening where I can also pick up some little mobilization and locomotion maintenance at the same time. So that'll be the next thing on the menu. Today, a little bit of strength maintenance on the walls and also a little bit of jumping, and then timing, rhythm, coordination. Oh, for anyone interested, I'm starting off by listening to a banger, which is Lucid Dreams by Hillsdom and Novocaine. Cracking track.
See, I'm better. She did my art to it, so I'm dragging out. She got no murder if you let.
So this is basically going to be how my set is going to go. It's going to be a superset between hang and a support. And you notice I didn't warm up my wrists or anything like this, because in Systema we're doing a lot of rotational work with wrists, working with sticks and stuff like this, but at the same time I want to be able to just jump into a wall without having to warm my wrists up as well. So you're kind of accustomed to this thing, not to an irresponsible manner, but to have exposure to it. So I mean, this hanging in this kind of pronated, encouraged version with the false grip can be quite therapeutic for the wrists. I've kind of experienced this a lot myself, when there can be impingements on the lateral side of the wrist, kind of in here. And then one of the comments from people is always like, oh, this bone looks like this is really sticking out quite a bit. Well, for me, if I start working with a lot of false grip work, especially on a wall, it kind of helps open up this area and decompress. You may experience that yourself. You can try it if you think it'll be beneficial to you. But yeah, so I'm doing some hanging. I'm working with 30 seconds for every single set. I started with cat hang. I'm also going to do the whole thing again afterwards, just with hanging. And this is from Marcello Palozzo. Basically, a hanging sequence was 1, false grip, then 2, third flange, 3, second flange, 4, fourth flange, just holding on, developing the grip. Can never be too strong.
If you let go, swing it loud, 3 strikes should I get?
You might have seen it there, might have not, but on my second set for the support, I'm steadily doing like a pyramid progression. So I started with just the basic support, 2-hand support. Second set then was just 30 seconds accumulated of switching from side to side, weight shifting, and I worked my way up to 1-arm holds and traversing as well. Again, working with the accumulation of 30 seconds.
She a murderer, she did my art to it, so I'm dragging out. She done a murder use. If you let go, swing it out, 3 strikes should I get? She a murderer, she did my art to it, so I'm dragging out. She got no murder use. If you let go, swing it out, 3 strikes should I get?
You should notice just with the hanging, I'm working through a bit of active and passive. I'm also adjusting the feet position. It's not just a stretch, because if you land in cat hang, I think you could end up in a variety of positions. It's mapping, and also keeping in mind that I would ultimately be pulling myself up or moving myself, so it's not just going to be a passive hang. Likewise with the support progression, there's different types of support. In a minute I'll do reverse when I change the context of the hanging and change the superset slightly. But at the same time I'm now working just with one hand support. At the beginning you can start this progression with just one hand support to the front, and then steadily changing and increasing the progression to you can hold one hand support from the side, accumulating for 30 seconds, so 15-second hold each side for the moment. I'm going to do the last hang for the cat hang, which is just on the last flange here, and then I'm going to superset that with 15 seconds traversing one way and then the back way. Keep an eye on the feet with the traverse. The wall traverse is a locomotion pattern. I don't have a lot of experience with working with walls, but I do have more experience working with locomotion patterns on the floor. And I'm always looking to see their application into something else. For example, something as simple as a bear crawl has many applications, because when you work on a rail, it's exactly the same pattern. It's a fundamental contralateral pattern that's the same as when you're bipedals, when you're walking. It's very fundamental. Something like the lateral bear crawl, when you're moving from side to side on all fours, if you have the pattern that I teach people anyway, it also works as a hanging traverse. And likewise, this pattern here is exactly the same as another fundamental quadrupedal locomotion pattern that I teach on the floor. So you can see it has valuable application. It's not just isolated to one specific scenario. I'm going to move on now, do exactly the same thing, but with hanging, and then also with support, but to the back.
Am I gonna wake up from this dream? Is this a dream? Girl, am I in my song? Am I gonna wake up from this dream?
Yeah, that last 30-second grip, just a single flange. I had to do it in 20 seconds, then 10 seconds. It was quite intense. You'll notice in between, I was just doing a jump to cat hang, just to get up the wall. And that's something that I actually had to build myself up to doing for quite a while. It was a project, and now it's just the way to get up the wall, which is how it should be. The movement starts off something complex. Well, first of all, you look at it, jump to cat hang. It's quite simple. You try it and think, fuck, that's not simple at all. Then you practice it, you start to understand it more, so understand the mechanics, things of the movement. And then when you're able to do it, it becomes just a movement again. It's just jump up to a wall. That's all it is. So I keep it there. So psychologically, it just stays as that tool. It's not like a training project that I did. It's like a muscle up. It's ultimately just to get on top of the rings to do stuff. But it begins as a project. Also the reverse traverse. The reverse traverse is, I haven't figured it out yet. You cannot cross the arms like I do when I want to move quicker with the traverse. On the top of the wall, if you saw it, I cross my arms from the top, and if you did watch the feet, you would see the pendulum action of the feet kind of kicking along with it. Not really possible on the reverse traverse because you can't cross your arms behind you, and so the feet are a bit shaky and stuff. So it just needs more practice, and perhaps further down the line I'll have something that's a little bit more efficient. I actually feel good enough to go and do the whole thing again, but instead working with the cat hang with bent arms. And actually I'm only going to do 15 seconds, but I'm going to work bent arm right at the top hold, then I'm going to work bent arm at 45 degrees, and I'm going to superset that with some other support stuff. I'll make it up as I go along, but probably working with bent arm behind me, so holding a dip position quite deep. I also work with inlocation, hanging inlocation, for some like hanging variations that kind of come into that region of support, but I'm not on top of the wall, kind of supporting myself under the wall. I'll mix it up. I just want to get those angle variations in. That, as one of my students from the French-speaking part of Switzerland would say, it was a killer. It was a killer. That last grip, I had to do it 3 times. Got the first 15 seconds with the acute angle, the 90-degree angle. I had to split it, I think, 3, maybe just twice. But in any case, I also I tested out the inlocated hang, but the grip strength was too much gone, so it wasn't a good superset. So I just stuck with the support. As you can see, I did some basically some dips on the wall, but reverse dips, so working in shoulder extension, as opposed to the normal dips on a wall where you'd be working in shoulder flexion. So it's also good to take care of. You notice I also keep rest periods quite short, and this is the built-in conditioning in my practice. People sometimes say, do you do cardio, do you do conditioning? I was like, but if you're thinking about cardio in the way of kind of cyclical repetition of the same movement, like jogging, running and things like this, no, not really. But the conditioning aspect is all inside my practice as well. I'm also tied with my breathing practice, which is always, so I breathe through the nose basically only when I'm doing practice. And after some years, you will notice the difference in conditioning context or in cardio context. You don't necessarily have to run and have to do these things. Those are not necessarily the only ways in order to build up your cardiovascular efficiency. So yeah, just going back to back here. I'm done on there now, so I'm going to do a little bit of really basic jumping work, probably just some drop down stuff off that rock over there, because my drop down is really, really bad. And also I still need this accumulation of stimulus over time with the knees in order to make sure that in my ongoing exploration, like environmental movement practice and with a lot of jumping and things like this, jumping, climbing, crawling, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I don't end up doing something untoward with my knees. I mean, my knees are very well prehabilitated in terms of just angular loads in different ranges, but in terms of impact, there's something very, very different. Same with the wrists as well. If you, for example, you might do a lot of handstands all your life, but then if you do something like boxing with impact, or even then capoeira where you're impacting and hitting the floor, don't be surprised if after 1 week of practice or 2 weeks, you're like, what, my wrists are hurting, but they never hurt with handstand practice. Different stimulus, impact and also sustained load, 2 different things. So I'm still, of course, building the resilience of my articulations, knees, etc., and everything else as well. With the drop-down practice. That's the physiological aspect, of course, there's a passioning aspect of it as well. And likewise, that comes to the wall. I'm doing this conditioning work on the wall. The reason I do it, and I do it at least once a week, is because then when I do things like exploring walls and jumping, cat hangs, and all these really very, very basic things that in many cases are taken from the world of parkour, I know that the physiological aspect is not the limiting factor. And in many ways, many cases, this is what I do with people's physical practices. I develop a physical practice so that if they enter into a certain field of practice, discipline or anything like that, their physical capacities are not the limiting factor. They're not limited by mobility restraints, by strength requirements or things like this. Of course, when you start specializing, if you go to weightlifting or if you want to then do ballet, yeah, you're going to find yourself with some limitations because that's a specialized area. But in the general scheme of things, I can go to something like a parkour class and people will say, wow, you've been doing parkour for a long time. And I was like, no, I've never done parkour in my life actually, and I don't do parkour. I just have developed some certain physical capacities through very standardized training. But then apply it. In my eyes, it must be applied at some point, or else it's not really a movement practice, it's a physical practice, training practice. And in many cases, that's also why when I develop people's programs, I say I'm developing for a physical practice, because I cannot promise or propose anything more than that, because beyond that, working with a movement practice, that then comes down to your own application of it. I can't then say, oh, okay, now go and enter this discipline or context and see how your car drives. That's up to the practitioner. So yeah, long story short, I'm working on my physical practice. Just to make life a bit more interesting than just drop downs, I'm just going to do some striding up, 1 foot jumping, and precision landing. I'm still really working on my judgment for my stride and then landing on a jump, so something very simple like jumping on a step and work this. Both sides kind of circling around and keep coming back, and kind of in a figure 8 infinity. Again, just to switch up the context a little bit with the drop down, I'm just going to do like a double foot precision jump up, or maybe I'll do a running stride jump, I don't know, and then I'll drop down the other side and walk back around, or kind of do the reverse step up. I did the forward step ups yesterday weighted, so maybe not necessary. We'll see. There's actually a nice step here behind, so I can actually stride, hit the step, pop up, precision jump, and drop down, soft land. And of course, switching feet. Really nice little combo. That's what's great about being a complete beginner. These little things can entertain you for many, many, many hours. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. But yeah, the nice little hop off. I didn't hear it because I had my headphones in, but it felt like most of them were soft landings. It's definitely improving. There's something so small, seemingly, in terms of the movement, but that's what this practice is built on, this jumping practice. So I need to make sure that yeah, I have the accumulated experience. I say this so many times, not just that I can do it. Right, I might be able to do it, you might be able to land softly, but do you have the accumulated experience of landing softly? In which case that means you've got compounded experience. That's what I'm building here, just compounding that experience. So yeah, as again, I'm going to change up this striding to the step jump pattern as well. With another tool that was, or frame that was shared by Marcello Palozzo, which is basically starting from kind of an athletic squat position, ready to move on the toes, switching around, ready to run, switch left or switch right, and striding up and making the jump and choosing just at the last moment which step I'm going to hit. You may have noticed one of the last reps that I did from the step before, I missed the step. I misjudged the timing of my choice with actually doing the movement, which essentially means I just thought about it too much. So yeah, I'm also going to be switching the feet as much as I can remember which side I've been doing. And again, I'm accumulating around 10-15 reps total. That's 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, kind of each side. I may do more, may do less, it's not so strict. Really nice context, really nice. There's some aspects, coordination, passioning, there's choice within the frame. You have choice. Do I take it from the jump from the first step, second step? Do I start with the left step forward, the left foot forward, right foot forward? Do I turn left from the squat? Do I turn right from the squat? Which step do I hit? And all these choices, all in this kind of few quick seconds. Really nice context. I missed a few. Overjudged a few, underjudged a few as well, but this is the practice. This is the practice. Change the context again just slightly. I'm not going to work with the striding. I'm just going to work with the precision from the floor up to the step, up to the top, landing softly back down again. That's enough of that context now. As you can see at the beginning, smash my finger against the block, my patterning, and not very good judgment. And then what I did, I started to reduce the distance from which I was jumping. And then I found that I can now work more with the rebound concept of boom, boom. So you might have noticed on the later reps, I was popping up higher. And I think that's more conducive to this context. Just for this at the moment, I don't need to practice the distance, that's for something else. That's for a broad jump. I don't really need to integrate the broad jump right now. So next time I'll remember that I'll just start closer and then I'll just practice kind of like bop bop, this kind of bop bop, bop, going down, this rhythm, instead of a bop bop bop, if you get what that means. So yeah, this is also an idea of thinking about, at the same time as I'm practicing here, this is also movement research. This requires you to have kind of a bit of a relationship and understanding of some of the mechanics and ideas that might be happening behind this type of practice. You don't have to know exactly, but I mean in terms of, okay, like I said, it makes sense that if I'm doing more kind of broad jump stuff over here, and I will do in a moment as well, then there's no point in me also doing it over here. Just as like, push, pull, straight arm, bent arm strength, extension, flexion, all these kind of pairs that go together, and you can apply it to all sorts of different types of contexts. I'm actually also going to get my hat off and get my tits out as well, because it's getting quite sunny, and I get some vitamin D and finish up my last set over here, which is just going to be just broad jumps. That's enough of that. Just 3 sets. The distance isn't important. I'm not going for a max distance or anything. As I said, just accumulating experience, so changing the distances. That's not also the conditioning aspect. That's also develops the judgment. When to be further, when to be closer, what kind of power to combine it with. And especially this is nice because the floor hit is full of this gravel. you can't push too hard from the floor, so you have to recalibrate between how much you can push against the floor without slipping, so it's never to be less. But then it teaches me that actually no, I don't need to push so much to get to a certain distance, and that leads to efficiency. And it gets a bit finer and finer after that, but that's beyond me at the moment. I'm just kind of opening the crack of that door a little bit and peeking inside. Yeah, I'm going to move on to now just playing with my balls. You can watch. Yeah, so basically, I was being a bit rude, but yeah, on my tennis balls, on my football, I always keep my nib and my pump in my bag. Quality, high class Kipster pump and Kipster ball from any good decathlon. So yeah, I mean, I keep this in my bag because if I don't, I won't practice it because I hate it. I fucking hate it. Now, I've been practicing to kick this ball. My finger's hurting from my bash it on the wall. That's life. I've been working on kicking this ball for like 3 years and I'm still shit. So it's always, when perhaps people think about, oh, I want to get good at this thing, very often they're thinking about, oh yeah, I'll do it for a year and I'll get good. I've been doing this for like 3 years and I'm still bad. But there's a reason behind that as well. I don't practice it every single day. In all honesty, I've never really prescribed to this training perspective personally. I've not so much, wish to really do this project of being able to kick this ball for like, 3 minutes straight or whatever. It's not really that strong, and it gets better anyway. But I do have to do it. So I mean, a minimum of twice per week, spending 20 minutes. Ideally 3 times per week, up to half an hour. So basically, I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes and I try not to look at it to see how much time has gone, and in my head try and judge when it's around 20 minutes, preferably over than under, and that'll be my session with this ball. Just do it for 20 minutes and then I'll do the same with working with the tennis ball, and that's it. If I have more time I would do half an hour, but I kind of have to go back home and actually do some work on the laptop. So at least get some of that in, because then I also have to go teach class this evening. And that's life. Actually, get a little bit more, just in case that extra little few pumps might help me get some reps. Who knows? Alright, let's get to business. Great start. Minutes of warm up. The ambition. I'm caught up recording this shit that I forgot to start my timer, so that's just going to be my penalty, and I start the timer from 0. By the way, if you're thinking, why is he so shit? He spent 3 years doing this. It's actually exaggeration. I started in 2019, it's 2021. It's 2 years ago, still terrible. Anti-frustration habit of the footballer. You blow the snot out of the nostril. I know it's disgusting, still a movement pattern. The third stage, frustration management. Laughter. Yeah. First stage, fuck! Second stage, Third stage, fourth stage, frustration management, nothing. Complete de-ambition. Not quite there yet. I thought that was like my longest one. I made the mistake of looking at the timer and it's only just over 10 minutes gone, so another 10 minutes. So that's the 20 minutes for the ball. I know it is because I looked at the time and there was 2 minutes left. Need a couple extra minutes more. In any case, one thing to say about frustration management is that it's a bell curve, right? If you're doing a task that's really, really frustrating, such as kicking this fucking ball, with regards to the length of time that you're practicing, like in the beginning, I couldn't kick the ball twice. Yeah, I couldn't even kick the ball up. I had to use it from the hands and kick it with the foot, catch it back in my hands, kick it with the foot, catch it back in my hands. And you know, in the beginning, when you're just trying to kick the ball up and flick it and you can only hit it 2-3 times, it's fucking soul destroying. So like 5 minutes and like I've hit the peak of my frustration management and the productivity can die off. It then means it's more to do with focus. You start losing your focus because you start getting angry and stuff and things like this. This is completely normal, but then you have to try to then at this time determine what is the point where I'm just kind of being a pussy and just saying, oh, I don't want to do it anymore, or are you actually kind of gone past the point where it's actually productive? And this is quite more common. You see it with things like handstands. Like if you're getting super tired and you're doing balance practice in your handstand, you're being very, very tired, it becomes counterproductive because you start to lose your line, you start drilling bad habits, and then of course frustration management. You get too frustrated and it starts to develop a negative relationship with the task. And that's always the dangerous stuff like this. I never grew up really with working with balls with my feet. I was the goalkeeper until people realised I wasn't growing any taller, so I had to kind of change that profession. I'm now just going to hit just some work with the tennis balls here, just some bouncing for just 10 minutes because we're going to do this as well in class tonight. We're working also on rhythm, timing, coordination and power management, object manipulation as well. So I'll pick up another 10 minutes later in class. After that I'll be done. So another thing to mention is that I'm not fasted today. This morning I woke up a bit later. I had extra sleep because the leg session yesterday, the boxing and then the leg session, it took a bit out of me. Had a bit of a longer sleep, just over 8 hours. And then got up at 8. I did my morning practice, which is normally about an hour, but I did about half an hour today. I just did some breathing, very, very basic lung cleaning, and also I did some prehabilitation for my shoulders because I didn't pick it up after the boxing practice. Normally I would then do prehab for shoulders. I did some really basic rowing stuff, but then I picked that up this morning. And then I worked a little bit at home, just had my Systema class, just now here, had a couple of hours down here. And then, before I came out, I ate. Before I started in the morning, after my breathing practice, I had coffee with my MCT oils, like 2 tablespoon MCT oils, right about like 150 calories or something like that. And then plus a couple tablespoons of full fat cream, organic cream, which again is like about 250 calories in my coffee with some really nice, I've got this turmeric and ginger latte mix. Oh, it's amazing. Put some of that in there. And afterwards, before I went to Systema, I had a bowl of full fat organic cottage cheese with a chia seed, kokosrapsen, cocoa, shredded coconut, and chia seeds in there, ground walnuts, blueberries, a banana, a little bit of agave syrup, sit up, and yeah, and that's why I had that bowl. I don't know how much it is, but it keeps me going. Right, I'm gonna crack on with this. So I knew it wasn't quite, deep down I knew it wasn't quite 10 minutes. I looked at the timer and it was 9 minutes and like 46 seconds. So you have to take a 1 minute penalty for this. It means you were too impatient and you need to learn patience. Yeah, so that's basically it for today. I'm going to shake myself out a little bit. As you can see with this task here, the lower back can tend to take a lot of, it just gets a lot of blood in the lower back from leaning forward. This is also because of my technique, I'm leaning forward quite a lot. And I do like to keep the ball moving. I'm not just working with one hand, that is one of the frames, but at the same time it's consistent. I really, you know, where possible, I want to keep that going for the whole 10 minutes, whether it's with two hands or one hand or whatever. So I would use the two hands sometimes just to take a rest. Two hands as a rest. Just come up high, let the lower back get rid of some of the blood, pressure, then go back in with the two hands, which requires a bit more of an athletic stance that I'm not performing very well because my lower back is kind of getting quite tired, which means I can have a more efficient form. But I'll keep working on that. So yeah, that's me done for the day. That was just a quick couple hour practice.